Okay. So 3. What?
And we're watching you count yourself down. It's funny.
And someone
Do you need an action?
I need an action. Yes, please.
I need a slate.
Right. Jess, if you can give me a slate, please, or just an action.
All right. Let's see. Kill of the Week, Season 2, Take 1.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2 of Kill of the Week, the show where we talk about some of our favorite kills in cinema history. I am your host, Brandon, along with my partner and co-host, Jill. And with Season 2, we're going to do things a little bit different, where we're going to have a more stationary cast and crew for the show. So hanging out tonight and hanging out tonight and going forward is our DP, Chris, as well as our 2 other crew members, Jess and Josh. Josh is pulling double duty at a work event, so he's coming in audio only, which is, I appreciate the dedication.
Hey. Sorry.
I love it. So this week on Kill of the Week, we are going to be discussing the infamous liquid nitrogen face smash kill from Jason X. And this kill was a pick of both of ours. So why don't you lead the round table and tell us why you wanted to talk about this kill?
I think when Jason X came out, it was just like another thing went to space. Of course, Jason's in space. And you kind of play it off and you're like, cool, Jason's in space. What's going to happen? But that liquid nitrogen kill was just brutal and it was perfect. And I just watched it over and over again and it had a lasting impact. And I love it.
All right. Yep. So, Jess, what did you think about the kill?
I mean, it's a pretty cool kill. Everything from, just the concept of it, I feel like it's different, completely different than other things you've seen. And just like the actual, I guess, the way they did it, the effects behind it, it looks pretty cool.
How about you, Josh? What did you think?
So for me, it was Sub-Zero fatality. I loved it. I loved it so much. And it's literally iconic in my eyes.
Oh, hell yeah. I love the Mortal Kombat stuff, too. Sub-Zero is my favorite character, so I 100% agree with that one.
Can't go wrong with that choice.
Chris, how about you? What do you think?
I'm watching it again right now, and I think what really gets me about this is the smashing part. You know what I mean? It was when her face turned to frozen goo, up and then slam into just shattered apart. It's a very, very intricate. Very intricate method of killing someone in a movie that honestly I thought like a lot of the other kills were pretty standard. Like they seem to have really put extra effort into this one particular one. It happens so quickly, but it's probably the most effective kill scene in the movie.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree, and I think. I love the little dinosaur puppet that's been guest appearing in the background.
Hi, Molly.
I think one of the reasons why I wanted to pick it is because it was definitely for me the kill that brought Jason back, especially being a diehard Friday the 13th fan. The film prior to this was Jason Goes to Hell, and it wasn't Jason. It was people eating Jason's heart and consuming the soul of Jason. So Jason was just a regular guy going around killing people. It was just kind of his spirit. And this film kind of brought Jason Voorhees back on the screen. Not to say that 9 wasn't a good movie, but 9 was a good movie in its own right for being something different. But this really went back to tradition of what it was. And that was the kill that truly solidified Jason back on the silver screen and how much I loved it. This was a video rental for me as a kid and loved it so much that I would watch it and rewind this kill repeatedly because it was so fucking cool. let's see. This film, they're going to like a little bit of some keynotes from the film. It was directed by James Isaac and written by Todd Farmer. I was watching this little like behind the scenes video earlier that they were talking with Todd Farmer, the writer, and the executive producer, Sean Cunningham, who was the original creator of the Friday the 13th series. And it was them two and a producer in a room just trying to figure out like what they can do to like really like vitalize Jason to come back after 9 had happened. And Todd Farmer pitched the idea of what if we put him in space? And Sean Cunningham's like, oh, that's brilliant, because today's technology and like futuristic technology and being able to explore a whole other world other than the blah 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 Crystal Lake and a boat in Jason Takes Manhattan. Now, Jess, I know you didn't fully watch the movie, which is fine because you've seen Friday the 13th before.
Yes.
You get the full concept of it. So, like, Jill, your first time watching the movie, what was that like? That experience, like the first time you've seen Jason X or Friday the 13th in general?
I don't know if I remember the first time, honestly. It's always been one of those core memories. I don't remember the first time. Honestly, Nightmare on Elm Street is more my favorite realm versus Jason and the Friday the 13th series, but I've always enjoyed it. I don't remember watching it the first time. I don't remember why I like that first time watching this scene. I just know I've always loved it. What year did it come?
2001.
Okay.
2001. I'm gonna say.
Okay, so I was 11. I don't remember watching it the first time, actually. That's a bad answer, sorry.
It's fine. Jess, what was your first experience with the Friday the 13th movie?
To be honest, I think I had known, obviously, Jason is kind of an iconic horror character. So I think I had been aware of him prior to ever seeing it, just from like the lore, doing Halloween things and stuff like that. I can't remember exactly when I watched it. I remember not being as scared as people told me I would be in watching the first one, but it was like a cool way to like finally see this character that everyone talked about. Anyone could picture him, knew exactly what he looked like, but actually see like the full story from the beginning. And to be honest, I might have not seen the first one first of all of them.
Most people did.
Yeah, I think I saw one that came out or closer to the time I guess I went to watch it. We have, a huge haunted hayride around us, and so like Halloween time comes around, they always had Jason character on their haunted hayride. So like that was by the time I was middle school and we were going every year. It was kind of like, well, who is this actual character that everyone knows? And I think it was probably around that time that I actually watched it.
Sweet. How about you, Josh? First experience with Friday the 13th and Jason X?
My first experience with Friday the 13th, I remember that it was like a marathon of like horror movies. It was just a weekend because I love Halloween. Like, just the episodes are always different than the movies are always just entertaining, even though it's just slasher, but it's something about it. And my first experience with Jason X was, I was like, Jason in space? And well, that is a rite of passage because Leprechaun was also in space. So, all right, I can't wait to see this. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is different. And this is different. I like it. And it still had like nuances of the classic films in it, like the camping room. I was like, I love it. I liked it.
Hell yeah. How about you, Chris? First experience with Friday the 13th and Jason X?
I gotta be honest, this movie. I've never seen a Friday the 13th movie until this one, and it's a strange ride to get on to at this juncture, So I think I'm gonna work my way back from this point and start at the beginning when I watch another one.
What kept you away from Friday the 13th until now?
I just never. It was one of those things I just never got around to watching. Also, when I was a kid, like my parents hated horror movies and wouldn't let me watch them, and I never got around to watching this one. Well, Friday the 13th.
I'm glad that we were able to pop that cherry because these movies are they're roller coasters. Like my first experience was my parents loved horror movies, so we would always watch them around Halloween time. But I remember I think the first one I watched was not the first one either. I think it was the fourth one, and it was all courtesy of Joe Bob Briggs when he was doing Monster Vision on TNT, and it was like the perfect way to introduce like young kids to horror, like or like more extreme horror rather, because it was like cable television, so you had curses cut out, you kind of had it like toned down a little bit. So like I remember watching it maybe around like 10 or so, like the Friday the 13th movies, and like 9 or 10, and just being like really into them because I thought they were fun, and like this big brute going, like I was never scared of Jason because I thought he was just fun. There was gore everywhere. It was just like I'm fucking madhouse watching this man go nuts, killing people. And then later as an adult, like watching the non-TV versions and being like, oh my God, there's boobs everywhere. Like, this is great. I'm 15 and this is perfect because there's boobs everywhere on TV.
Glad I'm not the first to say it.
There's reasons why teenage boys love these
I mean,
movies.
shit, even in this scene, as she's being, dragged out to have her face implanted in the tub, she still has some underboob showing.
Oh yeah, underboob,
Still
and
made sure that he groped her so you can
Jason
get
popped the titty feel. Like it's what happens. It's what happens.
Although
in
I
these
feel like
movies.
knowing Kane Hodder, he probably did it by accident and probably apologized.
Oh,
after.
absolutely.
Like, I am so sorry that I did that, and like it was not his intention. But then immediately after, then takes two women in a sleeping bag and hits them into each other in the tree.
Yeah. Which brings on to the next little factoid is that Kane Hodder reprises his role as Jason, being the only actor to play Jason more than once in a film. He played Jason in, I want to say it was 7, 8, 9, and 10. So he played Jason 4 times in the film series. So he came back, and at this point, Kane Hodder like is Jason. No one else was able to play Jason, and in my opinion, I think Kane is Jason. I think he's taking full ownership of that role. So much so in the very beginning of the film, we see that he's kind of like getting ready to go into this cryogenic chamber. Something that they really did, as the producers did as a nod to him, was that on his little cryogenic cell, there's a name, and I'm gonna butcher the name of it. I think it's like Kawaji or something on it. It's like KWJA. That was the island that Kane Hodder grew up in on Hawaii, or in Hawaii. I got it mixed up earlier too.
Why don't you start that sentence over?
It was the name of the island that he grew up on in Hawaii. There we go. So the producers threw that as a tribute to him to kind of like pay homage to where he was from, which was really cool. Excuse me. So it was nice to see him come back and have a lot of fun with it. So we're gonna get into the effect itself for the kill. So the special effects were done by Gino Di Rossi and Franco Ruffini. Also going to butcher those names, but they were part of the visual effects team with I believe they were called Toy Box Effects. And with the way that they did it, you had the character name, which I made a note is too long for a victim name. They really gave this character a little bit much of a backstory. Her name was Adrian Thomas Hart. They gave her a 3-parter, so I guess she was originally written to last longer, but
she was the first kill
for future Jason that you said.
Yeah, and Jason in space,
Yeah.
She's the first one to die.
So I guess they had to like make her a little bit more. It was
I
played
don't
by.
know why they gave her that much of a name. They normally don't. It's normally like girl number 2, and then she's dead.
Yeah, it kind of bothered me that her name was so long. You're just gonna die. I hope she didn't like develop a backstory for her on her own. She was played by Christy Angus was the actress who played her. And for the shot itself, when they were doing it, and Kane shoved her head into the water, that she had to like hold her breath long enough, so they kind of gave her like a counter for how long she had to hold her breath under the water screaming, so that way the VFX team in post had time to animate everything on top of her face. So I can only imagine how many takes they did just shoving her underwater and counting it before they were able to come up with the correct number.
Hmm.
So like Jess, being an actress, and I think we can call you a pseudo scream queen at this point. You've been in numerous horror films, and some of which you survive, some of which you don't. How would you go about playing this type of role and having to do an effect like that?
Well, I guess when I watched it, I wasn't entirely sure how it was done and how much of it was practical versus, done after the fact. So it's interesting to hear that. I mean, you got to assume some of it was definitely done after the fact. But in my head, I was like, man, they probably had to shoot this so many times just to get, everything exactly as they needed for the effects to work perfectly. So in my head, I was like, that gets tough when you do the same scene a gazillion times, let alone being shoved underwater. I mean, I'm not one to really back away from something ridiculous, but it would be difficult, I would say. Maybe not as difficult as having someone throw up some syrupy stuff on your face while laying on the floor, but yeah, it would definitely be interesting. I don't think I've had to do anything like that. That's not a note for future films, just so you're aware.
I'm asking for that.
No.
It sounds like, Jess, I'm sorry for whatever comes from that.
I don't know what
Maybe
you're
we could do
talking
the
about.
reverse. Maybe you could be the one drowning and Jess can be the one directing you, so you get a taste of your own medicine.
I mean, that's fine. I offered it that day to be thrown up on. Why is everyone gotta be quiet when I say that?
How would that have worked when we needed shots of Jess having it thrown on her face and it's you? Instead, the priest that dies in the beginning is all of a sudden getting thrown up onto.
Yeah, why not?
He's back now.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's fine. Then how about the reverse for both, like, Jess and Josh? Like, if you were to be the one to drown a person, if you haven't already, like, what would be like the mentality that you go through to like even approach that?
Little Nicky, immediately.
Oh yeah.
And it just works. It's comical. It gets the point across.
Damn you, Kevin Spacey! You always get my parts.
I don't know why that popped in my head that easily.
Yeah, you had that quick. Shit.
How about you, Jess?
I don't know. I think both ways, being the person doing the killing or the person getting killed. I mean, you got to be pretty comfortable behind the scenes before you can even get into character, I think, with that. Especially, I don't know, if I was the one like holding someone's head underwater, I feel like I'd be like, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you alive? And then actually kill you.
See, also the beauty of that too is Kane Hodder is a stunt coordinator. So at least like while he was doing all the coordinating for the stunts while being Jason, which is like a huge benefit for something like this. Chris, being a DP, like, is there any other angles you would have done with this? Because we kind of had like the typical three shot with this. We had the VFX dunk, we had the dummy come up, and then the close-up dummy head being smashed. So we kind of had like the traditional 3-part practical gag. Like, how would you go about shooting this?
Well, I don't know what type of a, again, like I don't have the most experience with Jason Voorhees and such, but I might have included something where he kind of like picked up the body and looked at the head, kind of like really like took in what happened and then kind of like dropped it. Because after he like smashes her head, he just kind of like throws her aside.
Well, I feel like he actually does. If you watch closely, I feel like because you consider the fact that he's now 400 years later in space, he doesn't really know what's in the sink. So maybe in his brain, it's just water. So ironically, Jason drowning someone is kind of strange that he would take that power back and be the one drowning someone versus drowning himself. So
Right.
he drowns her, but I guess what he would assume is less like a a sink full of water. But then like he has this moment where he pauses and like kind of looks at her for a second, like the fuck just happened, and then smashes her head because he's still Jason. I feel like it happened very quickly, but he does have this moment that he looks over at her.
It is very quick. I just
quick,
pulled it
and
back
I feel
up.
like
It
they
is
could have
very
definitely
quick.
held on it a little longer for him to process because he's not familiar with the substance he's using. It's different when, you know, later in the movie they give him his machete back, or, you know, he's killing people with a sleeping bag. This is a completely new material to him that he's never had access to before. All he knows is he dunked someone's head underwater and she stopped moving. Therefore, she's dead.
That brings up another valid point about Jason, is that he is yeah. Jason is surprisingly smart at some points.
Even though
like-
they mentioned his brain being really small.
Even though they mentioned his brain being small, but throughout the entire series, he's like, for some reason, knows how to use different shit. So like in Friday the 13th 3, specifically when he kills the one guy with a fucking harpoon gun. How the hell does Jason know how to use a harpoon gun when he drowned as a child?
Idiot savant for murder
How did-
weapons.
Yeah. I mean, how did
It just calls to
how
him.
did a small child drown and come back as a grown ass man?
True.
We
That's
don't really.
that's the real question.
See, like my original theory was that he never died and he was just like living in the woods for so long. But then I think it came to that he actually did like come back, that he came back from the dead, and that's what it was.
Like a Jungle Book story. It's kind of raised by the wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who would be his what's that monkey's name? Baloo? Or the bear? Right?
I don't know.
Was Jungle Book the bear?
It is.
Okay. I don't remember.
You're asking who would be his.
Oh,
Who would
I
be
know who you're talking about. I don't remember the name either, but I know the character.
Yeah, who would Jason's like animal friend be in the woods to teach him how
Like
to
a rabid
kill?
squirrel.
Definitely. Or raccoons.
Something like
Yeah.
that.
A weird possum. Like it's gotta be something like
Yep.
something.
That's why
Cockroaches.
he never dies.
Yeah, like he's friends with cockroaches and just adapted to never dying because he's a cockroach now. I don't know.
I can see that. I can see
He
that.
has
being-
way too many
Why?
powers.
But, you know.
He's
Yeah.
OP.
I have a question. Earlier from this kill scene, when she was dissecting him, she removed something from his head.
She removed his eye.
Oh, that was an eye.
Yeah.
Oh, that was an eye.
Yeah, so that I assume that she like removed his eye from what it looked like. She took a lot of effort into taking the mask off and like dissecting him, and like she looked like she was obviously going to the tub to like freeze it. I don't know why, for whatever purpose, but she took the mask off, made a comment about how ugly he was, and then put the mask back on him, and was just done with that. Because in the original series of Friday the 13th, it was a big deal to see him without the hockey mask.
Yeah. So you see him without his mask in numerous films, and he always looks different. So the first time you see him without a mask is in part 2, and he looks like a normal guy. And in part 2, he had a burlap mask, and he kind of looked like a normal dude. And then I want to say in 3, they took the mask, and he kind of looked like the Elephant Man. He kind of had like some deformities and this and that. And then in 4, Corey Feldman's character, no, it wasn't 4, it was 7. Or no, 4 it was him, and that's when he looked like the Elephant Man. In 7, the telekinesis girl, because Jason fights a girl with telekinesis. Just think about that. She breaks his mask, and he's like a zombie underneath. So he's gone through a lot of renditions without his mask. And in this one, he's just completely gooey and battered.
But I think it's a question of like why in this case she's dissecting him, and the first thing she does is take his eye.
I don't know.
That's the first thing you decide. I mean, also why is she wearing a crop top as a scientist on a spaceship?
It's a
but, you
future.
know,
It's the future.
Yeah, I mean that's just what they do in the future. You know?
obviously.
I mean, think of Fifth Element. Yeah.
But that's a whole other thing. She's not nearly as cool as Fifth Element.
No, she's not. But
Just because she has 3 names and dies within the first
it's the
20
style.
minutes of the movie does not mean she's anything.
Everyone in this movie wears something like goofy looking. Like
Do you remember the Disney show Xenon, the movie, and they were like, here's
No.
what kids wear in space? Like
I have
they
no
did
idea
that
what
with
that is.
I'll show you later.
I've never seen
But it's
this.
like everything is plastic
What?
and neon.
Oh,
And
I've
that's
not
it.
heard of that.
Oh, we're all
Never
watching
Xenon,
at it.
Girl of the 21st Century.
Oh, that's what our watch along is going to be, friends. Forget Live Freaky Die Freaky. We're all watching
Wait,
Xenon.
hold on. What was the full title, Jess?
It's like Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century.
Yeah.
God.
They lived on a spaceship. It's a whole fucking thing. Oh, we're watching it.
It's a
tonight. Don't
movie
worry.
or a show?
It was one of those Disney originals.
See, I
And
was
there's multiple.
I was
It's kind of like
not
how
a
I love
Disney
Halloween
kid.
Town, where there's too many and it really should have stopped. But I watched them all. Fine.
definitely was not
We're watching it.
a Disney
I know I
kid.
have the song stuck in my head, Jess, and I'm like, God damn it.
That's funny.
Yeah, that wasn't.
But yeah, so the odd factions of now you're in the future. You wear a shirt like this.
You wear
and
weird
you
clothes.
apparently dissect. You don't like. I mean, I just feel like you wouldn't like unbutton his shirt and like take in like his entire form and like take notes of his body and his condition and all of that.
Wasn't in the budget.
But no, I mean, like, but instead you just go straight to taking out his eyeball.
Yeah.
So it's almost like they needed to clock so many times that something disgusting happens. And they're like, we need something gross to happen. Take out his eye. He eventually gets really cool red contacts.
Yeah, he becomes Uber Jason.
But a lot of people can.
So to bring Jess up to speed of what's going on this spaceship, there's these ants that they were able to like utilize to basically put back together tissue. So in the beginning, one of the guys gets their arms cut off and they put him in this little thing and these ants come and they like reattach the arm, right? So later in the movie, there's a robot in the movie because it's the future. Like this dude built the first ever like real doll. It's a fucking robot that at one point he's trying to put magnetic nipples on her because she asked for boobs.
They become a very happy.
They become a couple. It's
Maybe she was always a sex toy.
hey, you know, I'm it's 2024 now, and what year did the movie take place?
The movie took place in 2455.
Even better. So who am I to judge?
They did make a reference when they were discussing finding Jason. When they first discover him frozen, they make a reference asking the students what he's wearing on his face, and they didn't know what a hockey mask was. And so they make a joke saying that hockey was outlawed in the year 2024. And I laughed really hard watching that. It was the first time I watched that in 2024. And, and I thought about like Back to the Future, and I was like, it's the future day, and this is what we have to show for it. So that's depressing.
It is funny. I wonder if like any film that has referenced like future stuff up to date has even been accurate.
No, but I think the
Other
idea
than The
is-
Simpsons, who apparently are accurate on everything.
The Simpsons definitely time travel, but I do think it's kind of amazing to guess what we think the future would look like and imagine that from different perspectives. I mean, at the same time, I'm going backwards and I'm rewatching I Love Lucy again, and I love watching and thinking about what the past was like and just some different perspectives of that use of that life. But it's just depressing that we don't have real hoverboards and nothing's as cool as that. But this wasn't as too much time in between. I'm not sure why they decided 2024 as a year that hockey would be banned if there's a reference of that. That feels really near future compared to when the movie was made in 2001.
Well, it's 450 years.
No, I mean when they wrote this, the movie came out in 2001.
No, I know.
They're referencing 2024. It's different than Back to the Future.
No, what I'm saying is this takes place like 400 years after the present. So if you really think about it, 400 years isn't that long in the future, in my opinion. Like it's long, but I like for a sci-fi flick, 400 years.
It's surprising that it's not like 4,000 years.
Yeah, that doesn't seem that long.
It's still a Friday the 13th movie. They don't have the budget for 4,000 years.
But like they've established in this, which I thought they did really well without having to like harp on it, is like Earth is gone. Like Earth is a vast wasteland.
Yeah, they explained that pretty quickly
At this point. And so they're traveling the Earth with these students to like discover things.
They're traveling to Earth 2.
Earth 2. They're on their way to Earth 2.
They're back home to Earth 2, yeah.
Because they're basically becoming Star Trek is what it is. Like they're exploring things and learning. And
so for some reason this professor has his students that he sleeps with.
no, he does not sleep with them.
He slept with, or he was messing with. Okay, fine.
She's a dominatrix to him.
having a sexual relation with one of his students.
Yes. Jess, you need to watch this. I'm telling you.
It's a completely unnecessary scene because that's when you know it's a Friday the 13th movie. Like, why is that necessary? It's not.
Yeah, it's
But
great.
it makes sense in the movie for no reason.
Oh, one thing I wanted to bring up before I forget that this movie has that was incredibly necessary and I couldn't appreciate it until much later in life is in the main bad guy in the beginning before Jason, the big headwig of this whole fucking thing to freeze Jason to want to keep him alive in the beginning is Cronenberg. So David Cronenberg is in the movie, which was really cool. He is a film director. He did The Fly, if anyone's ever seen The Fly with Jeff Goldblum. And he's like a body horror god for things that he's done. And it was great to see him in the movie. He was in Nightbreed, if anyone's ever seen that movie. But
Was
he gets killed.
the glasses in the beginning.
Yeah, he's the one that got in the very beginning when Jason like threw the chain, like it impaled him through the chest with the white hair. The old white haired guy in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Cronenberg,
Okay.
which is really
Yeah,
fucking cool.
The credits. I was like, oh.
Okay. What I thought what I thought was really funny to go with Friday 13th. Tradition is that Jason always comes when people are having sex, and while he's being thawed out, it keeps cutting to a couple having sex on the ship, which with every moan comes a body twist with Jason before he ultimately shoots up like the fucking Undertaker and dips this woman's head into liquid nitrogen.
Which
Oh.
I think makes me laugh of the other the simulated scene that they have later on when they bring him back to the campgrounds to keep him focused and entertained for a minute. That there's just two random women that stand up and just keep saying over and over again that they love premarital sex, and then
They're going to smoke some pot and drink some beer.
And instead, because they obviously don't understand Jason and who he is, it cuts to him putting they both climbed into their sleeping bags naked. It cuts to him hitting one with the other one while they're in sleeping bags, and then hitting the sleeping bags against the tree over and over again. And it's just the funniest goddamn thing. Like, you don't need to see these women. You don't need to see the blood. It is just fucking hilarious. That simulation or not,
Yeah.
he is not interested in like any sexual arousal of these women. He's just beating them to death with their sleeping bags, and it's magical.
I will say this movie was definitely a like best of kill list for the Friday the 13th movies because he does do the sleeping bag kill in another movie. And he's impaled people, he's slashed people with machetes, obviously. But this kill in particular was definitely the one that was 1000% different from every other kill that he's done and really took the liberty with that, which I really enjoyed.
You know the universe better than any of us. Did he ever have another unique kill like this in the Friday the 13th universe that's outside of his character?
That's outside of his character?
I mean, this was completely outside of what he's used to doing because it's a completely new medium that he hasn't experienced.
I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I will say, though, his brutality definitely remains because he's killed people in wheelchairs. Like, he literally, and I want to say it was...
He doesn't discriminate. He kills them.
Yeah, 4 or 5, he, like, hacks a machete to this dude in a wheelchair and kicks his ass down the steps. It's very comical and awful at the same time.
I do question what the universe was like in 2455, that they seem to have no idea what a serial killer would be like when they actively gave him back his machete and said, oh, it's cool, guys. He just wanted his machete back. And 2 seconds later, they're dead. Like, well, why would you give him back his machete? Why would you thaw out the serial killer?
Well, they
like,
established that was answered when the dude. So the professor has a side gig where whatever they find, they sell. Yeah. Like, he kind of has like a black market thing going on. And he's talking with his mover about what he picked up, and he's like, oh, we got these 2 bodies and this and that. And the dude's like, oh, like, you got Jason Voorhees. He has like 400 kills and vanished and this and that. But that's kind of establishing like you have this massive serial killer, but the professor never heard of him. So it seemed like they kind of like
Well,
he
okay, so-
vanished and they covered up his
well,
history.
so they didn't know who Jason was specifically, but when you hear, hey, you've now thawed out and brought this killer into your spaceship,
Hmm.
why would you hand him his machete back?
Well, he's clearly an idiot.
He was already carrying a large knife. He wanted the other machete.
Yeah.
So don't take his machete away. Yeah, but that was my favorite line. It's like, it's cool, guys. He just wanted his machete back. And it's just such stupid shit that it's hilarious. I love it so
Well,
much.
Buster seemed to be into stupid shit. I mean, you saw what he was doing earlier.
I know. But honestly, one of the favorites, my favorite scenes in the entire movie is actually not killed by Jason, but it's someone dying, is the girl being sucked through the grate.
Oh, yeah.
The spaceship. So the spaceship is getting destroyed. Jason's destroying everything. Everyone has to get out. The pressure is pushing her to basically be sucked through a grate that goes against the wall. And then it's just cut to her sucked through and you see guts on the grate. And I feel like they got really, I'm not going to say lazy. I think they ran out of money to not actually do something with it.
Yeah.
And I really wish they would have held on that longer. And if they needed to include Jason, it somehow they could have. But like her skin should have been kind of coming off first and little by little, like very Hellraiser-esque. Like they had such an awesome kill or death scene that they just went through so quickly, and I wanted more.
Here's the thing, that death scene had actually been done. Remember that movie I was telling you about, Space Truckers?
Yeah.
There's a scene in that movie in the very beginning. He docks at a space truck stop, right? And it's basically like a diner, like a truck stop diner, but like circular, like the spaceship from 2001. And he gets in a fight, and one of the portholes gets broken, and this huge, big, fat guy gets sucked slowly through this porthole about this big, ass first.
Oh,
It's an incredible kill scene.
Yeah.
And I think it was maybe like a little homage to that.
I like that. I really wish they would have held on it longer. I recognize that it doesn't fit I guess to say it doesn't fit in his universe doesn't matter. He's in space, so anything is possible. But maybe because he wasn't associated with that kill is why they didn't hang on to it, or they'd already kind of spent the money. It was creative how it was shot, but I wanted more of it.
It was a lot of that from what I've read and from what I saw. Like this was one of the very first movies to be shot entirely on 35 millimeter and then fully transferred to digital for the VFX crew to go into it. So it was surprisingly a very high-tech set for the budget that they were given for a slasher movie. That usually what they would do when they would digitize 35 millimeter film, they would really only kind of go through it and only digitize certain aspects, like the things that they would keep. And that way it kind of saved on money, kind of saved on space and whatever. And this movie was entirely transferred to a digital format for the first time like ever at this point, because VFX were so brand new and this level of VFX was just like unheard of for a slasher film at this time. Because like even with like as Josh brought up, you had Leprechaun in space and stuff like that, which happened if not the same year or the year after when Leprechaun went to space, and they kind of gave them that. What?
Everyone goes to space.
Well, yeah. I mean, Hellraiser did it first with Bloodlines. They sent Pinhead to space, but that movie is awesome, and I'll die on that hill. So it was a very high-tech thing. So I think by the time they got to that grade, they were not able to even like fathom the money or effect space for that.
Yeah.
I think what kind of happened maybe also is that that scene where there's a breach in the hull like that, and everything's getting sucked out. I was looking forward to seeing her get sucked out of the ship. Like at that point, it's like you kind of have to have that happen, because everybody's dying. This is how she's gonna die. And maybe later they realized, well, wait a minute, we can't really do that because we don't have the money to do that.
Yeah, always write big. That's my advice for anything, and that's what I do. Always write big and then figure it out later. That's what I like to do.
Yeah, as you definitely do that.
Yeah,
I second that.
Yeah.
There's a will, there's a way. We'll figure it out. Unfortunately for them, they did it. They had little flesh tendrils hanging on this tiny metal hole.
So I guess
Yeah,
on
I
that
would think it was pretty good.
yeah. Are there any kills I guess that you guys wish would have been better in Jason X that you feel like are slacking that could have happened
or
or
better
anything like in that context if you want to rephrase
with
it?
that, or like how to let's bring it back to like this kill in particular. Is there a way that you would have enhanced the face smash kill?
Maybe do it twice. Might as well see get the whole head off. You always chopping heads off anyway.
True. I had just a 1, 2, just like a double smash.
Yeah.
I don't know, I kind of like the idea of the brutal just like one hit smash, but maybe if it was like a full tub or something, more of her body and not just her head, or like piece by piece. But again, I don't think he knew what the material was to like torture her with it, because he was never really one for torture. He just killed you and moved on.
Yeah, he was a pit bull.
Yeah. Maybe
Like,
if he
it wouldn't fit with his character, but it would have been cool if he like then was like, this worked. Let me drag another person in here. Try this again.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I guess because he never really walked around and explored a spaceship. I mean, I kind of just want a shot of Jason like looking out the window and seeing space, like get distracted for like 2 seconds, like, oh, stars, and then go back to killing someone. Like, I don't know, you're 400 years in the future and you're not gonna look out the window.
Well, like, I mean,
But
fair.
does
Well,
he
there.
know he is?
True. I don't know if he's no, because she had to be told. I guess, yeah. I guess in his case, he had no sense of time change.
He
so
couldn't.
just,
Yeah, he couldn't comprehend, or just he only knows one thing. He just knows.
I know he's a
kill.
machine. He just kills. But yeah, you're right. He has no idea that he's technically in the future where he is. He just knows to do what he has to do.
Yeah. Which I feel like this movie lacked on, and like they kind of got rid of it throughout the entire series, was the the traditional the sound design for Friday the 13th, the that was like not in this movie at all, which was according to the lore is Jason's mom whispering to him that he hears her voice in his head telling him to kill. You didn't have that in this movie, which I thought was kind of an interesting choice.
there was a little bit of it.
Was it? I don't
There was-
remember.
There was like a couple spots where they did allude to that a little bit, but it wasn't as overt as it was in the other movies, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it was more really a part of the music that they put in.
Yeah.
The other thing, like the score in this movie is very big. Like the music that they had for her death scene in particular was very much ramped up. Like they didn't hold back on it, which I thought was kind of cool. That it was just like you knew shit was going down, and we're going to fully emphasize that with this face smash. So, Jess, with this being the only bit of this movie that you saw with the kill, what are your final thoughts on the kill, and does this make you want to go back and watch the movie in its entirety?
I mean, the kill itself is a pretty good kill. It's pretty awesome to see. Now I'm not completely unaware of this film. I had seen, the trailer and I know the concept of it. So, I mean, it's cool to see that kill was in it. I don't know if it's enough in and of itself. And hearing you guys just say you wish more of the kills were as cool as that one. I don't know if it's enough to go back and watch it, but it is a pretty cool kill to see.
Fair. Josh, what are your final thoughts on this kill?
My final thoughts: it will always remain classic. It's Sub-Zero, first time in real film for me.
Hell yeah! How about you, Chris?
I think I just need to watch the original. I really do. That particular kill and the towards the end when he was killing those holograms of the 80s ladies in the sleeping bags. That definitely made it worth a watch. Like that was funny because like it cut away after they were like, "Oh, we also love sexual intercourse," and you come back. What do you think's going to happen to these girls? Well, they showed you exactly what happened to those girls.
Yeah.
And you?
But,
I mean, it's always going to be one of my favorite scenes from Jason in the universe of Friday the 13th. I'll always enjoy the universe. It's not my top pick of those types of horror icons, but I see why they each have their place as our main categories of horror and serial killers of that universe. I agree. I think it's like I wish a lot of the kills were as creative and unique as that. That's kind of why I never fully got into the universe, because it's always felt repetitive. Like, okay, camp, kill, sex. All right, I got it. Which is why I always lean more towards like Freddy Krueger, which when everything's in your mind, there's complete endless possibility. So I think they were very creative with what they could do within Jason's universe to allow him creativity, but also stay true to who his character was.
There was a lot of like fun moments in this. I remember also at the end, when the rest of the ship blows up and he's coming right towards us, and oh come on, he's like flying at the ship.
Yeah.
That was a great moment. Like the movie's like filled with like wacky moments like that, and it was really fun.
There was like the one part when like they soup up the robot with all these guns, and they're like it's shooting Jason into that table where the ants are to like rebuild the skin tissue and everything. That it was like she shot him and he fell down on the thing, and then the music cue would start and he would start to get up, and then she would shoot him again and he would fall, then the music cue would kick in again. It was like they did it 3 times of like music shot before he finally got his face blown off, only for the ants to come in and rebuild him as Uber Jason.
And I do think the visual of Uber Jason was just very creative. How they the imagining of what would he look like in space and what would he look like with advanced technology.
Oh yeah, they souped him up with metal armor.
Yeah, I mean, like visually, he's beautiful and all of it, and I love Kane and everything that he does, and you can feel how much he cares about that character and knows what Jason would do and how he'd react. So, and which makes me feel like I could forget was it Jason Goes to Hell, where he's not really in it, which is like Season of the Witch. We can just pretend that they didn't exist, and then it's also like questioning why he wasn't in Freddy versus Jason, and how much better it would have been if he was in that.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Because Kane Hodder is Jason.
Yeah, Ken Kirzinger did an okay job as Jason, but Kane is definitely Jason. I would say for me this kill overall is perfect. It's chef's kiss. I like Jess's idea of throwing the entire body into it would have been awesome, and just to see like what was it you that said full body?
Yeah, that's not my talking.
I thought Jess said that. Okay, then my mistake. Full body in there would have been cool, and just like
no, Jess wanted everyone to be dragged from other rooms.
Well, multiple people in there would have been cool.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen like
do the face and then stick a whole body in.
Yeah.
On the next one.
What could have been cool would have been like taking a bucket of it and like throwing it on somebody, and as it like hit them, and you see it in real time as it splashed.
I mean, it's weird that it was put in a sink. Like it clearly was placed for that effect, but I wonder how they could have placed that same medium in different ways, that they could have used it in other kills.
Yeah, true.
But
is that Jason? He does a lot of head smashing. Because multiple people in this movie died that way, where he takes them and smashes their head against the wall.
Yeah, it's kind of a thing. Our very first episode of this podcast was a Friday the 13th kill from our good friend Chub Rock, and it was I forget which one it was, but the guy gets his it was from part 4. He gets his head smashed into the back of a shower, and then like his face just crunched, which was really fucking sick and brutal. So there's a lot of face smashing.
Well, I think there's it's he sees himself like he's deformed. He's not going to deform other people around.
Yeah,
I don't think he's really that deep, but it just so happens to be a lot of face stuff.
No, and now I'm going to go out on a limb. In my personal opinion, I always found Jason to be the good guy in every film that happens, because
if the counselors were watching it, we wouldn't have.
Well, you have that, and they're all terrible fucking people. He killed every person that I fucking hated in real life, which is like a beauty of watching that. It's just like all these jock assholes and all of these like reigning douchebags of humans and Jason is the one to eradicate that. So Jason has always been a good guy, in my opinion, of just like getting rid of people, of like people who deserve it, you know, because you have, now granted, it was the 80s. As much as people like to argue it was a different time, this and that, it's like, no, he's killing like womanizing assholes, like heartbreaking women. There's no sense to where like no one was safe to begin with, but he was getting rid of people who have no good essence to them, in my opinion. So like when you go back and watch these movies from the beginning and see every one of the series, majority of those people deserve what was coming to them. Not all of them, not all of them deserved it, but to some extent, a lot of them deserved what happened to them.
In this particular movie, or in
throughout the series.
Yeah, see, that's the thing though. I found in this particular movie, they weren't really like deplorable people. They were just annoying, and sure, it would be fun to see them get killed, but did they really deserve to be killed?
The only one I would say that would deserve it would be the professor.
Yeah.
I didn't think anyone else in this film in particular. No, I feel like they were students learning, and their professor was trying to like make money off of what they did and this and that. I felt like he was skeevy.
Yeah, he was pretty skeevy, but no, I don't know. I feel like our standards for skeevishness in the modern day are higher than they used to be.
True.
People like, I feel like we're used to a level of skis that is just so over the top at this point that the bar was much higher for people back then, you know?
True.
Maybe this
right.
was easy for people at the time, but now it's just like, you know, they're just kind of a little annoying. I don't know. I mean, that's where I was getting at. I think
you're absolutely right. They were a little annoying. They didn't, in this movie particularly, I'll take that back. This movie particularly, there wasn't many people none of them deserved it. But when you go back, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And with that, I want to thank everybody for joining us for Kill of the Week and the new season that's coming. So thank you, Chris, Jess, Josh, Jill, and everybody watching at home. And we'll see you guys with the next episode of Kill of the Week.